Well, hello, D&D friends, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 16 of Holy Rollerz, the D&D show about the Divine Fellowship, an alliance of clerics and paladins trying to stop the Adari Republic from falling into the Nine Hells. Good luck to everybody in the party and all of the people in Special Ops, because pretty much there's no way to prevent it. Anyway, moving on, we are going to now move on to introductions, starting with JT.
Hi everybody, I'm JT and I play Anduriel. He is the vampire cleric of Naylock. He's currently a vampire cleric of Naylock. He's sort of on that borderline of vampire and redcap. Hopefully it's sorted. Naylock is the god of night and vengeance.
Hey, I'm Ryan. I play Lachlan Dulay, the bard paladin of Sindel, goddess of love and truth.
I'm Jeff. I play Gizik, currently following Sigrund, the goddess of hags and runes.
Hey guys, I'm Ben. I play Moro Khan. He's the cleric monk of Hamina, the goddess of the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the lights in the firmaments.
And I am Sage of Sorcery, also known as Matt, your humble ginger dungeon master. And Ryan really enjoys it every time I flub up something I'm saying. Look at the look on his face. He's like grinning from ear to ear. Like,
I'm sorry, you're so humble.
Well, you just enjoy that because the rest of this episode will be dedicated to tormenting not your character, but a few. Anyway, moving on. So now we will jump into a brief recap. Last time on Holy Rollerz, the clerics awakened from a nightmare inflicted upon them by no less than Shykraz, the goddess of nightmares and fear. Upon awakening, Lachlan received a visitation from Nombulus, the demigod of dreams. As a reward for sacrificing some vitality to the god in order to withstand the nightmare, the demigod of dreams blessed Lachlan with the ability to hear and see the Green Man, an archfey sent by the Piper to kill mortals trying to interfere with the cult of Asmodeus' recruitment efforts. The Green Man unleashed a satyr violinist, not a sadist, but a satyr violinist, 2 dancing chorids, and a leprechaun to slay the priests. Ryan loves the leprechaun. It's his favorite monster he's ever fought. But however, the party triumphed, and in return, the Green Man offered them a boon. They could have had magic, they could have had wealth. However, the party asked to be taken to the Piper, and the Green Man welcomed the party into his jade carriage, flown and drawn by fairy dragons, and flew them through a fey crossing to the mournful coasts, the domain of the archfey, the Piper himself. And that is where we pick up. We have just crossed through that well into the Feywild. The carriage is flying straight up into the air from the other side of that well. And now, as you look outside the windows of the carriage, as you emerge from the well into the air, you find yourself careening over a vast pine forest of indescribable beauty. Some of the trees seem to move and dance in hypnotic ways, while others shimmer as though they were gathering the last rays of sunlight at dusk. The overall effect of the wood is that it appears only partially real, and it seems to draw you inward, enticing you to enter. The Green Man's carriage finally swoops down and lights down upon a beach at the edge of the woods in front of a short dock that appears as though it were constructed of woven vines. The tide of the sea before you seems to ebb and flow in strange directions, as if the water can't decide whether it wants to flow according to lunar cycles or flow from side to side. At the edge of the dock is a small gondola with a satyr holding a long oar. In the distance, floating across the water on the horizon, you can see some kind of a vessel that looks to be the size of a football field. And that is where you begin. The Green Man reaches down with his whip and gestures, and the doors to the carriage open.
So those last 2 minions that made it, that escaped from the last fight, they escaped into that carriage, right?
Yes, they did. You saw the other minions. You saw at least one of the minions, the violinist, escape into the carriage.
I'd
He
like to
had
make
no.
I'd like
Go
to make
for
a
it.
perception check to see if I can find any of them.
Go for it.
I don't see anything.
Well, if I rolled a 1, you did, if there was anyone present. But remember, when you make an insight check or when you make a perception check, I always roll. So there might be something there. There's not. So Moralcon's looking around, but doesn't notice anything.
Anduriel's gonna hop out of the. I imagine he hops like this with his hands, like because now he's all small and weaselly and stuff. Gonna hop out. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go to the Piper. What are we doing here? What are we standing around for? Green Man, take us.
All right.
Moroccan chuckles at his little voice.
Okay, the green man actually laughs at him too, but his is more laughing with you than laughing at you. He seems to find you endearing, Anduriel, which may piss you off more than Moralcon's laughing.
Yeah.
Does he say ho ho ho?
He does not. He does, however, say, "Nay, this is as far as I dare go, mortals, for soon cometh the morning hour, and I must needs seek shelter. I leave ye with this advice. First, be careful what you promise. Verbal agreements are laws unto the Fae. Second, do not accept anything to eat or drink upon the revelry barge, nay, even in the entirety of the Feywild, for the meat and drink of the Fae are intoxicants to mortals. And finally, do not enter the barge until ye are invited. As a guest, ye have some protection. As a visitor unbidden, the Piper will strike ye down with a thought. Fare thee well, mortals. I wish ye and the cause to which ye have dedicated yourselves success." And then he cracks the whip over the fairy dragons. And even though this swarm of fairy dragons isn't really attached to the carriage lurches off into the sky, back into the depths of the forest. Before you stands that dock and the gondola, and the sun seems as though it is going down over that strangely moving sea.
Go hop in.
I guess here we go.
Okay. So you go hopping down to the dock and you see another satyr, which isn't a huge surprise given the number of satyrs that you've seen in the Piper's service. And he's dressed in a brown robe, and he has a golden chain around his neck with a number of keys of different colors. And he's carrying just a long wooden gondola, or a long wooden oar that seems like you would use it if you were maneuvering a lake or something. And he looks up and he says, "I suppose you'll be wanting to make the journey to the Duke's Revelry barge. Well, you best step aboard. Unless I miss my guess, it's approaching the morning hour. No other safe place for leagues in any direction, you hear?"
Yes, fine.
Okay.
All right, I'll step aboard.
Anduriel, it's a little difficult for you to crawl aboard now that you're a little bit smaller.
I pick him up by his collar, so we can get him into the boat easier.
Anduriel is gonna whirl on him. Don't touch me, lizard.
Shall I toss you instead?
No one tosses a vampire.
It's not like he's a dwarf.
I'll acrobatics into the. I'm gonna make an acrobatics check and see if I can get in there.
Go for it.
That is a 17 on the dice. Yeah, I mean that's 28.
Okay. Well, that's more than good enough, even imposing a penalty for your new smaller form. Anduriel, you managed to jump up and vault over the edge of the gondola and land in there. It's a rather deep vessel, surprisingly, so that When you sit down, your legs go over a bunch of seats that are built into the gondola across it, and your legs go all the way down and they dangle just a little bit, to where if you stood up in the gondola, you would probably have the gondola coming just above your waist, or Morocon in your case, and Gizix to your waist, and Duriel, the gondola might go just over your head. So you have to balance yourself on the seat there.
Shall I
but
find
you
you a
say,
box?
So he looks down, the satyr looks down at you and goes, "What vampire are you speaking of?"
The one who stands before you, fool.
This
Not
little
sure
tyke right here.
Not sure I'm the fool. You look like a red cap to me. None of my business, though. We'd best be on our way.
On
So he
both of
takes
those accounts, you're absolutely right.
the oar and he pushes off the shore with it, and then he takes one of the keys and he fits it into the edge, that kind of headpiece to the gondola, and he turns the key, and he just kind of like turns the key and leaves it in there, and then he turns around and the gondola kind of just takes off as though under its own propulsion. He continues to paddle, but he seems like he's using it mostly to steer, as some kind of tide seems to be pulling on it. In any case, you find yourselves heading at a rather steady pace towards that enormous vessel out that's the size of a football field, coming closer to it, and it looks rather interesting. As you get closer to it, looks less like a vessel and it looks more like an island. However, as you come maybe about halfway through the distance, you find yourselves out in the middle of the ocean when the gondola stops cold right where it is in the middle of the sea. And that is when 3 female figures pop up out of the water with a very rather interesting appearance. Right in front of your barge, if we're looking at the map, if you're looking at your barge right here, right at the very front of the barge, you find a woman with bluish kind of tinged skin, with a beautiful mane of basically of hair that looks like the same color as coral. And she looks up, and from on the left side of her pops up a mermaid with alabaster skin and dark red hair. And on the right side of the barge pops up what could only be a kelpie, a humanoid-looking form with kelp hair that seems to just kind of rest on the surface of the water, like on top of her head, like a long mane of hair. And I would like all of you, if you would please, to make perception checks. Make a perception check, please, Gizzik.
And here I was worried you were going to make us roll for initiative.
Ooh, that's a good one.
21.
23.
23.
19.
31.
Okay.
Hey, Gizek.
So to all of you who rolled over a 20, they look familiar to you, like you've seen them before. But Gizzik, with that high of a roll, you recognize the Piper's daughters. Clearly, when they were in the dream, when you encountered them previously, they were in different forms, but now you're seeing them in their true forms as a siren, a mermaid, and a kelpie. And the one in the lead that you identify Gizzik as Madrigal, she says, "Look, sisters, mortals approach father's revelry barge. Have they brought the proper gift, I wonder? And my betrothed is with them. Welcome home, beloved. How fare you this evening? Been sleeping well?"
I'm sorry, I don't know you. Who are you?
"But you do know me. You wear the cold heart of the sea upon your breast. We are betrothed, beloved. Surely your memory is not so poor. Oh, dear sisters, have I chosen a dullard?" And they all giggle.
And Duriel cackles a little bit too.
I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. I may as well have rolled a 2 at this point, right?
Okay.
I nudge Morocon and say, it's the daughters, from the food fight.
Well, I know that, but they don't look anything like those ladies.
It's the same ladies.
Okay.
Are you sure?
The mermaid,
Yes,
the one with
there's
the
your
long
wife.
shock. The mermaid with the long shock of golden hair, which now is red. She looks back, the one that was looking in the mirror, Vanamira Gizik. She says, "Sister, behold, they've brought the dead thing with them. Do you think anything else has rotted off of him since last we saw him? Oh, and look how tiny he is. Oh, don't you want to just cuddle him?" And they all start giggling again.
Come close and try to cuddle me.
He's rather grumpy in his current size condition.
Vanamira gets the cross look on her face and says, "Oh, he was so beautiful. The waist just disgusts me. Oh, Madrigal, do tell father to fix him." And then a grunty, the Kelpie, Bob, her head's just kind of bobbing up and down with the waves. She says, "They smell like the usurper gods, sisters. Ugh. Even the hag spawn, his fey blood is corrupted by it." Madrigal looks at Gizik and she says, "Yes, it's hard to get beyond that. As pure and welcome as he might be here in his proper home. Well, tell me, beloved, have you come to make good upon your pledge to me? Is it time for our wedding at last?"
I'm here to bargain the release of my companion's red cap condition here. But as he's a little confused by the different appearance, so he's speaking rather slowly and fumbling over his words. So if to end this is, I'm sorry, is your hair, what color is your hair? Like, is it gold? Is it red? Is it like?
Well, now her hair is the color of coral and she has bluish white skin.
Huh. Nice.
And she says, "My hair, silly beloved." And she lifts up her hands and a surge of water just kind of lifts her up and she lands lightly on the edge of the gondola, not even stirring it even slightly, and a little bit of water kind of laps into the gondola. And as the water laps into the gondola, the satyr goes, "Best keep the water out of my gondola, Miss Madrigal." And she comes over to you, Morocon, and she says, "My hair, silly betrothed." And she says, "My hair is whatever color I wish it to be. Do you not like my appearance, beloved?" And she comes up and she puts her arms around your neck like that.
I think it would be preferred if I know what you actually look like at all times. That would be helpful, I would think.
At all times? What a positively mortal idea of appearance. Why would one want to look the same way over an eternity? How boring. Do you really intend to have golden scales your entire life?
What's wrong with my scales?
Oh, nothing. I'm sure we can fix it. It doesn't matter.
Wait, what?
And she taps on the brooch on your chest and she says, "How are you?" And she kind of just traces it with her finger and says, "How are you adjusting to the cold heart of the sea? It's not bothering you, is it?"
Is it bothering me?
Not yet. The only thing you've noticed is that the cold that came off of one of the powers that the violinist used didn't seem to bother you.
The cold doesn't bother me anyway.
It's once an episode now.
It's low-hanging fruit now.
Such low-hanging fruit.
Doesn't bother him. He's learned to let it go.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, well.
It's been nice.
Okay, and we're good. All right.
All right. And well,
Okay.
I've been trying to adjust to this gift you gave me, but I've yet to figure out what all its properties are.
She says, gift? It's a wedding present, betrothed. A wedding present. So you haven't discerned its function yet?
Not entirely, but apparently it saves me from cold.
Well, yes, it will offer you some resistance to cold, but that's not all it does. You see, the cold heart of the sea can also allow you to change energies, betrothed. Energies, fire, acid, even the mental energies of the psyche. Whatever attacks you may proffer can be turned to cold, should you so choose to do. Have you not figured that out yet on your own? He doesn't know how to use the brooch yet, sisters. And there's like giggling back there.
Well, it's not for lack of trying.
Okay. And she says, and of course, it's more powerful effect. And she just kind of begins tracing it. And as she traces it, she kind of just begins letting it touch your scales instead and starts playing with your scales and whatnot. And she says, of course, if you want to use its more powerful form, you'll have to call out to me.
And what might that look like or entail?
Well, I don't know, she says, but I do notice that you sometimes seem to have a problem getting your enemy to come to you, what with you lumbering and trunking about and knocking things over all the time. And so the pendant will allow you to mimic my call. All you need to do is call out to me, and you will be able to hear my call draw your enemies nearer to you. Wouldn't be quite convenient, wouldn't you say? For someone as used to fisticuffs as you are? And she boops you on the snout.
It sounds handy, I suppose. He's like begrudgingly like, yeah, I guess that sounds okay.
Okay. And she says, remember, betrothed, all you need to do is call out to me by name. Call me by name, and you'll be able to mimic the effects of my call and draw your enemies to you, even from a great distance. Should be quite useful when they try to run away from you. In any case, that's a gift already given. Have you come with a proper gift? I would hate to think that you'd come without a gift, then we'll be forced to attack you. And then all of this will have been a waste. You have the proper gift, don't you?
Is she saying that to me or to the whole party?
She turns around and looks to all of you, but she does look at you.
Well, we were rather accosted by minions of your father. We weren't able to acquire much. What is it that you would like?
Oh, no. Oh, dear, sisters. They come without a gift. That's a grave insult. I do believe we're going to have to kill them now, sisters. Vanamira goes, oh, poo. And a Grundy, the Kelpie, whose hair is kind of like bobbing up and down on the water, gets this vicious-looking grin in her eye, and she begins to kind of rise up out of the water, and they're looking kind of ugly. I would like you guys, if you would please, to make a Knowledge Arcana check.
Another 23.
28.
Show off.
Okay.
14.
Okay.
I'm trying to get all my good rolls out of the way.
Lachlan, you are very familiar with the fact that presenting a gift when you appear before an archfey is a custom amongst them. And to appear without a gift before such a magnificent being in the Feywild, particularly when you've not prearranged some kind of a meeting, is a grave insult. Gizik, you rolled high enough that you actually know what the proper gifts to the Piper are. The Piper will accept on his altar from a warlock tears, songs of death and suffering and fine wines.
So just punch somebody in the nose and they'll start crying?
Well, that's one option.
How does one sacrifice a song of death? Like
Just
in form?
sing it?
Well,
Gizik is correct. All you would have to do at this point would be to sing the song where you are now. Being stopped, Gizik can tell you that being stopped right now as you are, you've been stopped by the heralds, his daughters, and now is the time to present the gift.
I have a vial of tears from when we were at the altar originally, but I rolled a 4, so I don't know anything about anything.
All right. So then,
well, Gizik, you going to tell him?
Yeah. So I'll say, we have brought gifts. We have brought you a wondrous song of death and destruction, and Lachlan will sing it for you.
That's probably a better idea than Anduriel.
I don't know. Maybe he likes his red capness.
Well, if you don't present a gift or an offering now, they're going to attack you.
Morokhan looking over at Lachlan is like, yes, we brought a song.
Come on, Bard. Stage fright right now. What is going on with you? Usually we can't get you to shut up.
Okay. Here goes.
Morokhan starts beatboxing to help him out.
Ogre, if this becomes more unbearable, you have permission to kill me.
Just sing the song from Lego Batman.
Oh, wow.
Darkness. Continue, darkness.
I can't get it to load.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. You could just describe, unless you want to wait for it to load, you could just describe the song.
He's like, sorry, the Wi-Fi on...
Or you could actually sing it if you want.
Or you could sing it, yeah.
He's like, sorry, the Wi-Fi on my yarding is pretty bad out here. Don't you have any cell towers in the Feywild?
You could also ask JT to sing it for you. I'm sure he'd be willing to.
No. He starts playing what sounds like a mournful tune of lost love. And it's got a very long introduction, and then most of it is the lyrics are just like oohs and more crying kinds of sounds as opposed to actual lyrics. Although the few words there are speak of death and love lost.
Okay, make a performance check, please. If you roll a 1, you're gonna get everyone killed.
I got a +12 to perform. I can keep it on the table. I got a 13 + 12, 25.
Okay, so it's not your best performance, but it's certainly it's a very good one. Obviously, Morokhan's beatboxing in the background seems to like distract from it, and for a minute there, it makes it worse. And then you're like, okay. Anyway,
well, the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is a pretty long song anyway, so maybe.
There you go.
Maybe they'd like it because it's a shipwreck.
Okay. All right. Grundy, the Kelpie, just looks disgusted, and she settles back down under the water. And Madrigal lifts her hands and claps gently, and she says, very well. You are more than welcome now to proceed to the revelry barge. I wish you luck. Keep in mind, my father is like any fae. He enjoys a good bargain. And something else. And she looks to you, Morokhan, and she says, remember, betrothed, my father is more than happy to fulfill his end of the bargain while waiting for you to fulfill your end of the bargain. But don't wait too long. That's all she says.
Okay.
And then she turns around and leaps back into the water, and she descends, and then her sisters both submerge.
Dragon, I am truly sorry that you have to marry a fish.
I suppose there are worse things, but none come to mind at the moment.
Okay.
So you could be turning into a red cap.
That's true.
And there
I do.
is-
I do like not having bloodlust.
And Duriel's kind of losing his feist a little bit. He's just sort of getting a long face, like, oh no.
Yeah, you're doomed. Anyway, moving on. And so you begin to continue on towards the Piper's revelry barge. And a very interesting process begins to happen. The the satyr who's pushing along the gondola, he turns to you and he says, well, no, nothing to do but wait. The morning hour is upon us. And he says, you'll be safe aboard the barge. Don't be afraid. Just hold on. Wouldn't do to go falling out into the seas at this time. And a stillness falls over the sea as the sun sets and the skies begin to darken overhead with clouds. And then an unearthly, sad, but beautiful melody begins to waft slowly across the waters. It begins slowly and then it picks up pace until it kind of reaches a frantic, frenzied tempo. Birds begin to fly overhead. And as the song continues, you watch a flock of birds fall from the skies and they decay to bones mid-air, disintegrating before they can even hit the water. The tide rises into violent crashing waves that begin to smash the coast, and your barge is carried on the waves up and down, but it never seems to be overturned. You look back as the song continues on, and you see that the waves begin to shatter the rocks of the coastline, pulverizing them. The waves begin to rise over the coastline, uprooting trees and destroying structures that you see along the coastline. The song continues and the water swells. And by the end of the song, the coastline that you left looks like nothing that it did before when you first laid eyes upon it.
Guys, this place is weird.
The song ends, and the raft that you're on never does seem to be troubled too much by the fact that enormous waves are rushing past you, and it's wobbling up and down. At times, you fear that it might turn over, but it just seems to ride the surface of the waves as though by some kind of enchantment. And by the end of the song, you've seen devastation has just been wreaked across the coastline, and dead creatures, fish are rising to the tops of the seas as the Piper's song brings death to the coast over which he rules. And looking at the looks on your face, the satyr who's pushing along the gondola says, "Oh, not such long faces, mortals. It's the same every time. The Piper's song brings death, but life always returns. Never you mind." And then you find yourselves. Go ahead, respond if you have something to say. I saw.
And Duriel was actually kind of looking out kind of peacefully. He's like, there's a certain symmetry, isn't there? A certain beauty in this. And he just kind of shudders.
Mm. He says, "Oh, the piper's song brings death, but life comes back in the morning with the rising of the sun. You'll find the coastline more or less repaired to what it once was. The trees will have grown back. Such is the way of things." In any case, the barge continues to move along and it picks up speed, and you find yourselves coming to the edge of the Piper's Revelry barge, and it is quite the sight. Rather than an actual barge of some kind, it appears to be kind of a mixture between a floating enormous barge and an island that seems to be just drifting in the middle of the sea. The materials on the edge of the Piper's Revelry barge are vines and trees that have woven together to form kind of a barrier around it. And then the further in the barge goes, it seems almost like a ship that's been crafted as though by some kind of a master carpenter. The edges and areas along the ship, you see a very large tent in the center of the ship, and what looks to be some kind of ornately carved wooden throne. You can't really see too much, but there is a dock, and he comes up to the edge of the dock. The gondola stops right in front of it, and the satyr turns to you and he says, "Well?"
Do you have any tips or suggestions that might help us out from this point on?
"Well, I've already brought you this far. You haven't given me anything. Don't see why I should be giving you advice."
I give him a high five.
He does not meet your high five.
No, you idiot. No, you idiot. And Andreo's going to pull out some of the gold that he took off the dead bodies, and we would greatly appreciate any help you can render us.
Okay, you had 100 gold pieces you pulled off the bodies. What do you give him?
I don't know. What's a good tip for a bargeman these days? I need to pull out my tip calculator.
Well, one of you could make a knowledge arcana check and see if you know what a good tip might be in this circumstance.
I don't have any of that, but I'll certainly give it a whirl.
I got a 22.
I got a 7.
All right, so Lachlan, you see Anduriel's fishing through and like counting out coins and looking confused and also very short.
Yeah, he is.
He's just a wee thing.
So with a 22, do I know what would be appropriate?
Well, magic is more currency in the Feywild than coins. They also prefer gems, things of beauty and value, rather than a system of coins. So if you had something to offer, like some work of art, or if you had something of magic, that would be a better tip than gold would.
I'll give him the sheet music that I took off the Piper's altar when we first came upon it.
Okay. He takes a look at the sheet music and he said, "I already know this song. What good is this to me? Anybody who lives on the Mournful Coast knows this song. What a waste."
Okay.
But have you tried to play it backwards?
"Why did you bring the dumb dragonborn? Didn't you have any smart ones at home?" "I think it's about time you all got off my ship."
I don't know if we have any magical items, do we?
Oh, okay.
I'm not giving him my magic items.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I'll step off the ship.
All right, good luck. Get the hell off my bard.
Gladly, you greedy fey.
Hope you fall into the water, Redcap. Okay. So do you guys go heading up the ramp?
Heck yeah, I'm like storming Norman here. Let's get
Okay.
this done.
His
Alrighty.
little pitter patter up the stairs.
Up the ramp, but not quite onto the barge.
All right. So it's a really kind of an interesting scenario that you see as you look out over the barge. Given that it is the size of a football field, you see a lot of tents have been set up along this area. You also see that the vines that grow around the barge have some of them grown up and seem to hold magical crystals that are shedding light across the entire barge. And you see dominating this scene would be that ornately carved wooden throne in front of the largest tent at the center of the barge. And there's someone sitting there in the center of the barge in that carved wooden throne, should you choose to approach.
Anduriel's approaching.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm right behind you.
All right. Anduriel's approaching, looking like nothing so much like a grumpy Care Bear as he kind of just goes tromping along. And from the tents along the sides and some of the tents that you are passing, you see faces popping out and you hear giggling. And some of the faces that are popping out have paint on them. And surprisingly, they don't look fey to you. Some of them seem fey, others of them seem distinctly human or halfling or something like it. But they're not all fey. And as soon as you pass by them, they slip right back in there. And as you approach the wooden ornately carved throne in front of the largest tent, you come upon a personage who can only be the Archfey, the Duke of Dismay, the Piper. His appearance is very much in line with elegance. As you look down, you can see that he has cloven hooves, but his stature is more human or elven than it seems like a satyr. He wears a cloak and a suit of red velvet and brown leggings that reach down over and cover almost down to his cloven hooved feet. And you see that in his hands is an ornate set of reed pipes that don't just have, you know, 3 little stems going out of the pipe, but that have like pipes that are going around all 3 of them in kind of an intricate format. Lachlan, you've never seen a set of reed pipes that look like this before. And as you try to kind of follow the pipes themselves, you get dizzy and you're forced to look away as though the formation was too complex for you to figure it out. If you've ever stared at the blades of a fan and tried to just follow one of the blades of a fan, and then you can't because it's going too fast and you look away, it is the same kind of experience as you stare into that set of pipes with gold filigree that are sitting upon his lap. His hair is just barely down past his ears. It's long and it's fairly curly, brown, and he has a goatee or rather a Van Dyke that tapers to a slight point and very, very slight edge of beard going up the side. His eyes are a steely gray. They look like storm clouds that are in motion. And as you come upon him, you also see he's got one of those woodsman's caps with a very light feather in it. It's red rather than green, and it matches his cloak and his tunic, or his suit. And you come up, and he says, in a voice that just seems to carry across as you come before his throne throughout the entire barge, he says, "And so you come to me, servants of the usurper gods. The whole of the world stands indebted to the rebel court. I am the Duke of Dismay. When your world lay dying, 'twas my song that tamed the seas and bid the tides ebb and flow to follow nature's rhythm. Do you come to make good upon that debt?"
We come to free our friend from the pact he made impetuously and without knowing exactly what it would do to him.
Then the owing still stands. And as he says that, he leans kind of back into his chair and relaxes. And you get the feeling that some kind of ceremony has just taken place, the likes of which you are not only ignorant of, but that you were unable to meet in some fashion, as he asked you whether or not you had come to make good upon the debt the world of Ienia owes to the rebel court. That being said, he looks up at you and he says, "You killed my daughter, Luella, my adopted child. What crime was so horrid that you had to lay her low?"
We didn't seek conflict with her. It was self-defense.
She sought to destroy us.
Along with another child.
And I sought to protect that child from her.
And you've never defeated an enemy without killing the enemy before?
We don't start the fights, but we definitely finish them.
Gizik, when you say that, he looks up at you, and a vague flicker of emotion kind of crosses his kind of deadpan face. Almost, you can't tell if it's annoyance or amusement. And then he looks back at you, and he says, "You want to break your pact with me? 'Twas you who drank from the chalice. You've certainly enjoyed the power the pact has afforded you. Why would you wish to break it now?"
So Anduriel's he's kind of cowardly lioning over there, like shaking a little bit in the presence of this guy, and he hates himself for it. The bargain was made in bad faith, my lord. I didn't know. I've not enjoyed the power at all. I've lost all control of myself.
All right. He says, "And yet you have had advantage of the increase in your bloodlust. I rather find the creature that you are becoming far more interesting than the creature you were before."
I am far less of a creature than I could be. I am limited by this bloodlust. I am limited by this. I can't think clearly, my lord. I can't think clearly. All I can think of is the blood.
You've always been a creature of bloodlust. Now that your bloodlust has increased, you find your new form displeasing. You could come here to the Feywild, where the sating of your bloodlust would have less consequence.
Well, what do you mean?
I mean, you could have a home here in the Feywild, on my revelry barge, in the wilds. You could make the Feywild your home and indulge your bloodlust. You could forget your lord entirely and forge a new destiny for yourself.
I that is an offer that is hard to refuse, my lord. It is amazing, but I have obligations that I made in good faith and with my eyes wide open to these people.
Not to mention his own deity.
Okay, the Piper holds up his hand like this, and a cup appears in his hand, a gold chalice that nevertheless looks as though it were grown rather than crafted, as you see kind of wood and plant sticks or vines climbing up the side of it. And you're surprised because you didn't really catch sight of the person who brought it. The person who brought it is a young man, young human man with red hair and kind of those rosy cheeks that have been put on with blush. And he's wearing like a little sailor's outfit, like the kind they used to put little boys in, with the white shorts and the Donald Duck kind of thing. And he brings the cup over and he goes, "Here is your drink, Father." And he steps back, and he's like 25 years old. So being dressed up like a child like this, it looks kind of, he looks for all the world like one of the Lost Boys almost, in his oddly placed outfit. But he giggles, and he hands the piper, and the piper takes from the cup and he drinks deeply. And then he hands the cup back and he says, "Would you have something to drink? Wine, perhaps? Something to refresh you?"
I wouldn't want to impose upon your kindness, my lord. We are here for a very specific purpose.
But you do impose upon me. You come to my revelry barge, having slain my daughter, asking for favors. Is it a bargain that you wish?
It is an opportunity, my lord. If you're unwilling to remove this from me, at least give me the opportunity to make an informed decision, as I should have had before.
Your rash decisions are a consequence of your own choices. You cannot expect to hold me or anyone else accountable for the choice you made. Informed or not informed, 'twas you who chose to drink from my chalice.
That cannot be contested, my lord, obviously. But would you have a servant who has been forced into servitude, who is of no value, who has no thinking mind of his own? Or would you rather have someone who understands what's expected of him, and someone who can reason and bargain?
Ooh. And Duriel, make a diplomacy check.
That is a 19. Oh, that's a 19.
On the die or total?
On the die.
Okay.
But I'm not trained in diplomacy.
So half your level and your charisma modifier.
So 25.
Okay. Alrighty. So he says, "No, I would far rather have a servant who is willing. You make a good point, Death Priest. You have involved yourselves in a struggle that is far beyond the concerns and the abilities of mortals to influence. But I may be able to assist you. Tell me what it is you wish of me, and I will tell you my price."
May I confer with my companions, my lord?
He reaches back out for the goblet again and sips from it while you turn around to chit-chat.
All right, we kind of huddle up. Well,
obviously we want your pact broken, but it's really what we would wish.
Right.
We would need him to pull out of this alliance he has with Navariel and Shykros.
but if we can't have both, what if we can only have one, or the other, or none? This, I don't know. Gizik.
What if there's a way for you to regain some control over your bloodlust without breaking this?
I don't know. Perhaps, gentlemen, perhaps a moment of prayer? Perhaps?
It's a good idea. Madrigal also mentioned, she made it sound like the Piper could even remove your vampirism. Is that something you would even want?
She is an idiot. I don't know. You can never trust what fays say in the first place. I don't know. The
No
main
offense,
concern.
Kizik.
The main concern right now for me is this red cap condition. Vampirism I can live with. I've done that for many, many years.
But can you though? Wouldn't you like to have that removed as well?
So I suppose I've lived with it for so long. I can't think of anything but being a vampire. I don't know. I suppose I can ask. See what he says.
My fear is that the more we ask, the more he will ask.
Of course. He is Fey.
But what does he stand to gain with this alliance? Obviously, he feels like he stands to gain something, some recognition, perhaps, some power or influence. I mean, it sounds like from his perspective, the gods just kind of came in, pushed them out, and without so much as a thank you for not letting the world collapse. And he might be a little bitter about that. What if there was some way to petition on behalf of the gods, or petition the gods on behalf of the Piper to, I don't know, maybe there's a deity that would consider recognizing him as an exile.
Oh, you don't want to just give him a ribbon? Congratulations!
Gisik isn't too far off. Perhaps this person is so capricious. He could be after godhood. He could be after some trinket. Who knows? The Fae are so strange.
Okay, while you're talking, Morocon, you feel a tugging at your robe.
Okay, I turn to look.
Okay, hanging off the edge of your robe, Morocon, just kind of swinging back and forth and giggling, is a little girl who's dressed in a little ballerina outfit. She looks kind of like the Sugar Plum Fairy or whatever. And she's dressed in a little ballerina outfit with little pink shoes that curl up at the edge. And she's just swinging back and forth from your robe and giggling.
Is there something I can help you with?
She says, "Have you ever killed anybody? I've never killed anybody before, but I want to."
Great.
So, guys, how's this?
You notice as like you look down and looking at this, there are other children who are beginning to kind of emerge from the tents that are around the revelry barge, and some of them are skipping rope, some of them are playing. One of them is chasing another one with a knife. It's kind of like what is that book? Rye, help me out here. The one that they force us to teach with the children stuck on the island that are all murdering
Lord
each
of
other.
the Flies.
Oh, Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. Thanks, JT. Not even an English teacher. He's like, my knowledge of literature will suffice here. Yeah, it's kind of like Lord of the Flies. These kids are kind of like wandering around, and some of them, these kids are like 25, 21, 18 years old, but they're all dressed up like little children, and they all seem as kooky as Mad Luella.
Okay.
I just had an idea. Obviously, we can't offer him recognition of the gods. We can't speak for our deities. That would be presumptuous and potentially blasphemous. But
can't you? Aren't you the voice of the divine fellowship?
That's what. But that's not. I'm not offering that. But that's where I'm going. But what if we offered a seat on the council? We can't grant him divinity, but what if the Piper were to be represented as a member of the fellowship? then he would become the enemy of Navariel and Shycross.
Alternatively, he becomes a plant inside the Fellowship. A very powerful one, as a matter of fact. I don't know.
Not him as him. I mean, like a designee. We would treat him the way that we treat a deity. That he gets to select a. I mean, for crying out loud, Morricon's wife, maybe.
And Duriel's looking around at all the people walking around, stabbing each other. A representative?
You sure you're not like wanting to go join in the fun?
I don't know, Lachlan. Perhaps we should see what he wants. I can tell him what our concerns are, the things that we are after, and then see what he wants.
Look at him. Do you think he's going to care about his concerns? He's already about to get a son-in-law in me, and I'm not happy about that.
Okay, and Duriel, while you guys are having this conversation, a little boy walks up to you and he hands you a club with a bunch of nails that have been driven through the club, and he tells you, he goes, "Hit the ogre. It's ever so much fun." And Duriel, make an endurance check, please.
That's a 2.
And Duriel, please make a melee basic attack against Gizik as a murderous glee fills you, and you cannot help yourself but swing that at Gizik.
That is a 15 on the dice. So it's a 15. Is the weapon have any bonus to it, to the attack roll?
No, it's just your strength modifier and half your level to the attack.
Yeah.
Plus 2 for the club proficiency.
17.
What's your AC, Gizik?
21.
So I know the 20.
So 15, half your level 3 strength is already 23 with a proficiency. So you get clubbed. Go ahead and roll 1d8, Anduriel, and add your strength modifier of 3. Or 1d6, excuse me. A club is a 1d6 weapon.
Oh, it's just a 1.
Okay, so 4 points of damage. Gizik, Anduriel giggles madly, and he swings that club with the nails in it at you, and he just glances you across the arm.
Sorry.
I try to snatch it right out of his hands.
Okay, Anduriel, make another endurance check, please.
I'm trying.
17.
Yeah.
Okay, Anduriel, you do manage to, if you can either drop it or let Lachlan take it.
If he's grabbing for it, I'll let him take it. Like I'm freaking out a little bit.
You whack Gizik, and the children around you, they're like, ah! Like they giggle and they go dancing, and the piper picks up his flute and he goes and just plays, and the kids just kind of scatter like to a perimeter.
Okay, so the red cap thing needs to be taken care of. First priority, yes? Okay, very good.
I suppose at very least that's something we should get taken care of. Shall we see also if he wants to be free of the bargain he made with Navariel?
Let's just see what he has to say.
Lachlan, if I may, I don't know that I trust my voice, so unless his lordship addresses me directly, would you please act as voice here? I don't want to say something that gets us all murdered.
Okay, and no more hitting Gizik.
I will do my level best.
And I will try to remember not to eat anybody here.
And Gizik, you might want to bewitch him so that if he starts to come near you, you can push him away.
I've got fists.
This is the one time, Oga, where I don't mind if you hit me with one of your spells.
All right.
Waves of Ecstasy would be a good one.
The kids would love that.
Okay.
They'd all be on this major sugar high.
Oh yeah.
What's the appropriate address for a duke?
For a duke, I think it's your grace.
Okay, well, that's what I say. Your Grace, we would like your aid in severing the pact with Anduriel, that he can return to his previous form, and we're also interested to see if you would consider setting aside your arrangement with Navariel and Shycross.
I cannot break the bargain I have made. Surely you, and he looks at Gizik, surely you, at least, can understand that to break a pact, to break my word, would result in the loss of my power. However, the bargain that cannot be broken can surely be worked around. At the appointed hour, I must appear in your city of Horta, and I must play my song, as I did for the children of Hamlin so long ago. Your people will follow me. They will fall under my spell, like the rats to the harbor. However, I can supply you with a song that, if played well enough, perhaps under some kind of magical amplification, will counteract my song, giving your people their free will. I promised the fallen, the Archangel of Pride, that I would play my song for him at the appointed hour. But should you play the counter melody, 'twould be none of my affair. Is this something you wish to bargain for?
Yes, and I'm curious, when you play your song, does that complete or does that finish the measure of your pact? At that point, could your alliances be shifted?
The details of my alliance are my concern. Suffice it to say that your people will have a fighting chance if my song is countered. Would you learn one of my songs, Bard?
I would be honored.
And he looks to Anduriel and he says, I can remove your fey blood. I can remove your vampiric curse. I can put a stopper in your condition. But what if you were to agree to become my warlock? Then you might have control over your fey blood rather than cast it aside and return you to your form.
A warlock.
Would you take up my pact, priest, and serve two masters?
Is such a thing possible?
Can Morocon make like a religion check to see if that's
You may
possible?
all make a knowledge or a religion check.
This is a 21.
16.
22.
Also at 22.
All right. So rolling that high, Anduriel, you yourself know you could make a pact with a piper and it would not necessarily interfere with your vows as a cleric of Naylock. That said, it would most likely royally piss him off, and there is the possibility that you might be punished. However, there's no commandment that you've been given that would prevent you from making a pact as a warlock. Now, with a 22 moral con, just a little bit higher, there are some priests who are also warlocks. They have pacts with powerful servants of their deities, like angels, or other planar creatures of that sort, celestial unicorns, and creatures like that. So there are priests who are also warlocks, although Anduriel doesn't know that.
But they're usually of their own sect, though, right?
Generally speaking, the pact would be with an entity in service to that deity.
Yeesh.
I don't know what I don't know. What are the...
All right, he looks to you, Lachlan, and he says, "There is more. I will teach you my song. I will alter your companion according to his desires. But I want something more. Your goddess of love was cast down by her fellows into many mortal incarnations. During one of these, she ruled over your republic with an iron fist. Among her treasures was a mirror she kept by her side often, a mirror framed by coral and embedded with sapphires with a glass of crushed diamonds. This mirror captured some of her divine essence, an essence she herself could not access at the time. No doubt such a treasure would be greatly desired by your church. I wish to possess this mirror. That is my bargain. Bring me the mirror. That is my price."
While he's chatting with Lachlan, I'll pull Anduriel aside and try to conference with him about becoming a warlock and the pros and cons of such things.
Well, you don't have to do that if Lachlan mind links everyone.
Yeah, you can use me. I've got the feet.
So it's up to you.
Okay, well, I'm going to be chatting with Anduriel to try to conference with him about trying to serve two masters that are seemingly similar, but with opposing goals in mind.
Yeah, there's some implications here. But I don't know.
Indeed. JT, your character has hit a fork in the road.
You serve the god of vengeance as much as I hate him. You must keep yourself in mind that you don't piss him off.
Again.
You're so eloquent. No, I will say, I will add to that, because I rolled a 22 as well. Say, Anduriel, it's not worth it. A pact. Look at the pact. Look at what's happened with the pact you've already made. You've lost some of your own free will. No matter what Naylock asks of you, he still doesn't compel you. He might punish you if he doesn't like it, but you still choose to serve him. I don't know if you get a choice when you've made a pact.
As he's sitting there shaking like a chihuahua, you might be right. So I guess he'll address the Piper Anduriel. Your lordship is quite generous. However, I fear serving two masters who are potentially at odds with one another, and to be honest with you, losing more of myself. I don't know if what I gain will be worth it.
What if I were to promise you that you would lose nothing by taking up my pact, but only gain, unless you chose to serve me further?
Gain? In what way?
Surely you would relish the power of a warlock's curse. To curse your foes in my name and watch their wounds deepen as you strike.
That does seem like something Naylock could get behind as well, I suppose.
Certainly. It would aid you in the work of bringing death.
And the cost for all of this is the mirror. There's no other cost associated.
I want the mirror. That is my price. It is a small price to pay to counteract the hell that comes for your city and your republic.
What if the mirror is gone? Like, what if it's lost or destroyed?
I know where the mirror lies. Should you strike this bargain, I will send you there immediately.
Will your lordship be upset if I choose not to serve you?
Your choice is your choice.
Well, yes, it is, but I made a choice before, and it hasn't gone too well for me. I don't want to upset you overly.
Then take my bargain. You have so much to gain and nothing to lose.
I feel half a second, half a moment. I'm going to see if I can pray to Naylock.
Okay.
Although I'm pretty sure what I'm going to get, I'm going to try.
I'm going to pray to Sindel also.
I'm going to do it in my mind. I don't want to do all.
Okay.
Yeah. Say, Naylock, please hear me. You hear what this being is offering us. You hear what I can become. What would you have me do? You've asked me to be on this council. You've asked me to assist these people. How much better I can do that with this power? What would you have me do?
Anduriel, your shadow lengthens ever so slightly, and the head of your shadow just kind of turns at an unnatural angle to face you, and you see two glowing red eyes just very, very faintly illuminate the head of your shadow as it stares at you. And then your mother's voice fills your head and says, "You are the child of sacrifice. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary in order to gain what we want. Do you not think so, child?"
I don't know. Sacrifice. I don't understand. I sacrifice myself for these people. Why?
Okay. Your shadow lengthens as kind of wings begin to kind of just jut out, like angelic wings to begin to jut out from amongst the shadow, very, very subtly creeping out across the decks of the Revelry barge. If you weren't paying attention, you might not even notice that your shadow is lengthening to kind of take on more of the form of your mother's shadow. And you hear her voice in your head again, and it says, "It's your choice to make, child. I am sacrifice. You are the child of sacrifice. Should you take up the pact of the Piper, you will certainly be sacrificing something. It's up to you to determine whether or not it will be worth it. Either way, I will still come for you, my precious boy.
I'll be waiting for you. Thank you.
Okay. Click. Okay. Okay. Very slowly, your
Did
shadow.
you just hang up on me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Did it sound like this? Click.
Yeah. Very slowly, your shadow melts back into the tiny form of your red cap self.
My lord, a point here. What would I be giving up? Usually, if a deal sounds too good to be true, it is. What would I be giving up to serve you both?
You give up nothing. You merely open the door to future interactions between us. You will forge a connection between us as my warlock. I can be a valuable ally.
Through the mind link, Andurio's going to say, I think I'm going to do it, you guys.
Okay, you begin to hear the piper just idly picks up his instrument and begins playing a lively little tune, very pleasant in the background.
Are you giving up your vampirism?
I believe that's part of the deal.
Anduriel, does a 24 beat your will?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Anduriel, you just feel like you can't say no to the piper's deal.
Oh.
This is the DM saying, you're just making the deal. Let's move on.
No, not really. This is the piper using his magic to influence you and force you into the compact.
I don't know. I don't know. But wait a minute. If I'm not a vampire, what? If I'm just a warlock, I've spent my whole life as a vampire, but I guess I should take the deal anyway. It seems really great, you guys.
You would be redeemed in some capacity, which I know Hamina would smile upon that.
Lachlan?
Please make an insight check on Enduriel, because even before the whole Piper thing, he seemed not himself.
Please make an insight check. I was going to ask you actually to make an insight check to see if you picked up on it.
That's a 25.
Okay. The Piper's song is filled with magic, but you do pick up on the fact that he's subtly using it to manipulate Enduriel.
Okay.
If you use your bardic inspiration and you roll high enough on your performance check, you could counteract the effects of his song.
What if I use Bastion of Mental Clarity to give him a bonus to his will?
He rolled a 25 to beat Enduriel's will. Enduriel, what is your will?
22.
So you could block out the song with Bastion of Mental Clarity.
So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to punch my way into Enduriel's mind and throw up some barriers and make the music sound discordant instead of pleasing.
All right, Anduriel, for a split second there, you are like, I have no choice. I got to take this deal. This is the best deal ever. It's like a down payment. There's no down payment. There's no interest. 6 months before any payments. It's going to be fantastic. And then Lachlan's presence enters your mind and shoves that deal before you can walk off the lot with a new Hyundai out of your head, and you have your free will again.
Wait a moment. Perhaps the sacrifice is sacrificing the power of being the warlock. Perhaps that's it.
I still think you shouldn't do it.
Now, I will tell you as the DM, you have a choice here. The Piper is offering you a choice. You can pick up the path of the warlock as a class. You can pick up the path of the warlock with just a feat and gain a very minor cursing power. You may keep your vampirism that way, or you can get rid of your vampirism. He's really offering you kind of a player restart in a way.
But either way, it's kind of all or nothing, where I have to serve him I have to.
Oh, you don't
sort of-
have to serve him. He said it opens you to further detail, further interactions with him. That's the difference between being a cleric and a warlock. The power sometimes comes with fewer strings attached.
But think of the strings that he's already attached to. You'd be making a pact with someone who's already made a pact with Shykraz and Navariel. What if that somehow your pact with him connects you to them?
Look, I serve Naylock. He's the god of darkness, of death, of shadow. I can't get squeamish about some things, but I don't know. You woke me up, and that makes me nervous. It seems he was trying to influence me. Perhaps I shouldn't take the deal. Perhaps I should just get rid of the red cap issue and move on.
Well, your immortality has been an aid to us, and as gross as it is that you bite people, it has
Very.
it's the way that it's who you are.
What about Gizik with his wisdom of 18? What does he have to contribute?
There may be strings attached. Maybe they go to Navariel, but maybe we can pull the Piper away from Navariel with this. And, they'll give you plenty of power, I'm sure. With very, very loose strings. Certainly looser than the strings you've been dancing to as a red cap.
Well, either way, I'm buggered.
Little angel Gizik on your shoulder, little devil Lachlan. Ben, can you do an illustration of that? It's not. It's the ogre on your shoulder. Take the pact! Take the pact! The bard on your shoulder. Don't do it! Don't do it!
And I'm the devil. Wait, I do want to offer my own prayer though.
Okay.
That to Sindel, saying that Sindel, I don't see a way around this. Giving him this mirror. If we don't give him the mirror, then we could fall, and it could cost many lives.
Okay. Anything
What
else?
do I do? Yeah, just I feel like I need to give him the mirror and need to say yes to that.
Okay.
Stop me if I'm wrong.
When you say that prayer, the spirit brings to your remembrance the fact that the Radiant Mother tasked you with retrieving an item of beauty and bringing it back from wherever it was lost. But you realize as you say this prayer that she never said anything about it bringing it back to the Abbey of Ardor. She just said retrieving the item from where it was lost. You kind of get the impression
loopholes in a prayer.
You kind of get the impression as you ponder on that statement that Sindel might be pleased just to have a thing of beauty restored to the world and no longer lost.
And how do because she's not in the group of deities that the Fae call the usurpers. How do they view her?
Make a knowledge religion check.
Natural 20.
Okay, as an elder goddess and not one of the outer gods like Hemina and Naylock, as an elder goddess, Sindel is a bit of a wild card. Much like Titania and the elder elemental god, they kind of stand alone. That said, Sindel certainly seems to have thrown her lot in with the elder gods, or with the outer gods. So, is she one of the usurpers? No, but Sindel wasn't around when the world's natural laws fell apart and the rebel court had to step in to save the world. So, you might consider her, in the eyes of the rebel court, to have equally lost the rights to the world of Ienia. Now, it's not her fault she was cast into a series of mortal forms and cursed by her pantheon before she was freed, but to the Piper and to the rebel court wouldn't make much difference. She wasn't around when they had to save the world.
Okay, I want to say to the Piper, Your Grace, I will bring you the mirror. I agree to your terms that I will bring you the mirror. Teach me the song.
The mirror for the music. We have a bargain. But the bargain is not complete. And he looks at Anduriel and he says, what about you?
Real quick in the Mind Link. Gentlemen, I know this decision affects all of us, but I feel like I need to take this offer so that we may perhaps bridge the gap between the Piper and our gods. It's not going to be great for me, I'm sure. And I hope it doesn't affect you too much. Are you all very opposed to that, or shall I proceed?
I have already struck some sort of deal with the Fae that brought us here. I feel Hamina has set this path before us, and I don't disagree that I feel like this would be a worthy trade-off.
Well, I think it's totally stupid, but what do I know? I'm 19 years old.
I think the Piper could be a very powerful ally.
Okay. So out of the Mind Link. My lord, I will take your offer.
We have a bargain.
However,
And
I want to remain a vampire.
What? What are you doing?
He says, very well then. The mirror of Sindel for the music to counteract my song. A pact as my warlock in exchange for a return to your vampiric form. Are those the terms of our bargain?
Yes. May I ask another question?
Of course.
You mentioned that the arrangement you have with Navariel and Shaikraz that's your own business, and indeed it is. I just wonder if the conclusion to that business is the song, and then you would not be bound by that. Would you consider becoming an ally of the Divine Fellowship?
He crooks the slightest corner of a smile as you say that, and he said, my alliances are my own to determine, priest. However, I'm always open to another bargain. Should you wish my assistance in the future, my warlock will contact me.
My lord, before we make this official, I've reconsidered. I wish to be free. Free of the impulse for blood. Free of the lack of control. I wish to be free. Completely.
Very well. The music to counter my song. Freedom from your vampiric curse, and a pact as my warlock. in exchange for the mirror of Sindel. And there's something else that I want. It is within the power of the priests within your fellowship to raise the dead. I wish my mad Luella returned to life. Get one of your clerics in Horta to bring my Luella back to life, and our bargain is done.
Guys, that's an abomination in my church. So I'm not sure I agree with this part.
Resurrection's an abomination.
We're not turning her into a zombie.
Death isn't so final as you might think, Dragon. It's more of a fluid situation.
But it does trouble me that he's adding more to the bargain.
Perhaps we should add more.
And then he adds, and then he adds. He's the one that holds all the cards.
Perhaps he can help you with your blemish, Lachlan.
I don't need help with my blemish.
You say that out loud, Enduriel, or is this all in the head?
No, I'm guessing this is in the mind link.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep everything in the mind link.
Okay.
My lord, this is your final request is unexpected. Perhaps as a group we may consider it for just a moment. Guys, we should ask for something else. They're the Fae. They love this sort of thing.
Yes, but they're also the writers of the fine print of every contract.
No, those are devils. They do things by oral agreement.
Perhaps he likes music. Perhaps he has a powerful magical instrument that he could give to Lachlan.
Perhaps he could free our friend who is at the party currently.
Friend? You mean Demora?
Potential friend, potential ally. I don't know. Someone we could use, perhaps.
Yes, that would be... He could help with that, I'm sure.
I don't like wasting our deal on the faith of man.
Well, he's not a genie. It's not like we're wasting wishes here. We're trying to add something else in. But I'm open to suggestion, of course.
Well, the instrument's an interesting thought. Gizik, you're Faye. Why don't you bring it up?
Just so.
Yeah, but if he can help us free Demora, I'm sure you can get an instrument somewhere.
Yes, but why don't we just free Demora? Why don't we do that's something we can do.
That's a good point.
I mean,
Sure.
I could make an instrument out of string and wood, but it's not going to be an instrument.
I mean, if you were any sort of bard, you could.
All right, I will speak out loud here then, and I will say, bringing Luella back is no small task. We can't just give this to you, but perhaps we could trade. Do you have, or could you create a musical instrument that could harness the power of the Fae for our friend the Bard here?
There are many instruments in my treasure trove, I would be pleased to have your bard play upon one of them. Your song was sweet that you played upon the barge. I find this term acceptable. Do we have an accord?
Yes.
Yes.
Very well. He
Yes.
looks over and calls out in a just slightly louder voice, "Attack!" And one of the children, kind of who were dancing at the edge of the circle that he created with his song, comes trotting into the circle, and it's a chubby little. Well, he looks like a little boy. It's a chubby little boy who's wearing kind of animal skins with kind of wild hair. He looks like he's trying to look like one of the Chorids, but he's kind of like just a 16-year-old chubby little boy. He comes bounding over, and the piper leans like this and whispers into his ear, and he comes back with the same chalice that Anduriel drank from the first time. And he brings that chalice back, and he looks to Anduriel, and he takes a very, very, very tiny dagger with a curved blade. It almost looks like a letter opener. It's so slim, and he pricks through the glove of his finger, his gloved finger, and drops just one drop of his blood into this goblet. And he hands over the knife to you, Anduriel, and gestures for you to do the same. And he says, "One drop, no more."
Anduriel takes the blade in a shaky hand because he's nervous and because it's super heavy because he's tiny. And he punctures his finger and squeezes a drop into the chalice.
Okay. The piper, in a very, very swift, practiced motion, just stirs it slightly, and he puts it to his lips, and he drinks, and then he pulls it back, and he hands it to you, and he says, "One drink only," and hands you the chalice.
Anduriel takes it, looks up, looks around, and takes a drink.
Okay.
Very
it's like
brave.
It's like the size of a bucket, right?
Yeah, he's probably like this.
Yeah. Takes one drink. Okay. The piper looks up, and he stands up from his ornately wooden carved throne, and he takes the pipe and he lifts it up to his lips and looks up at all of you and says, "Stand away from your companion," and begins to play. And as he plays, Anduriel, you feel the agony of death fill your body with each note he plays. As each swell of his tune comes forth from his panpipes, you feel as though something were being ripped out of you. The rest of you watch Anduriel, and the waves around the revelry barge begin to swell, and storm clouds gather overhead. And as it happens, you see shadows begin to just kind of ooze or drip off of Anduriel's form, and a bolt of lightning strikes down from the clouds gathered overhead, and it strikes Anduriel. And Anduriel, as the bolt of lightning hits you, you feel something that you have not felt in just about a century of unlife, you feel your heart begin to beat again. Sensation returns to your limbs, and as he continues to play the song, your body begins to reshape, and it begins to lengthen until you are restored to more form at the moment that you returned in the chapel of Father Garin. And he finishes the song, and you feel a very, very strange energy has taken its place. The rest of you see Anduriel takes on a very, very, very slight fey appearance. His ears just barely begin to look as though they had tipped. His eyes take on a slightly more almond shape. If anything, he's only gotten more attractive in an exotic kind of way, and his skin takes on a healthy pink glow that it didn't have before, as he is restored to both mortality and he is stripped of his vampirism and instilled with a measure of fey blood. And the piper says, "Very well. The bargain is struck. A warning and a word of caution. The longer you take to fulfill the terms of your bargain, the greater the consequence will be. As the people of the village of Hamlin discovered when they failed to pay my price, their children paid my price in their stead. Bring to me the chalice." And he looks over to you, Lachlan. Out of nowhere, he produces a silver tubed scroll and he hands it to you.
Okay.
And he says, "Learn my song, and at the appointed hour, you will save your people." And now, he looks over and he says, "I will send you to where the chalice," or he says, "to where the mirror can be obtained." And he starts playing another song, and a fissure opens up in the air in front of you. And you see on the other side of this fissure the area in the city of Horta that looks like a huge sinkhole in the middle of the street has opened up. That looks to be like almost like a half a mile in diameter. And there are buildings around it, and you catch sight of the entrance to the old Adari Republic below the city of Horta. And he finishes his song and he says, "Enter into the ruins and you will find the mirror." And he looks down Duriel and he says, "You will contact me, my warlock, when you have the mirror, and the bargain will be complete."
As you say.
What of the instrument?
He looks up to you, Moral Khan, and he says, "My daughter will bring the instrument to you, crafted by mine own hand, before the next full moon."
It must be an elegant instrument then. Do I know how long the next full moon is supposed to be?
Make a knowledge religion check. You only need a 10, Moral Khan.
Okay.
Why you only need a 10?
Well, that's why I asked. Okay, that's easy. We're good.
Okay. The next full moon, Moral Khan, is in a couple of days.
Okay. So we can expect Madrigal to show up in the next couple days.
Okay. Or to somehow get it to you otherwise.
Okay. Well,
he said his daughter. It doesn't mean it's magical.
What's with the laugh, Ryan?
I'm just thinking that Kelpie's gonna show up.
Freaking Kelpies.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right. He says, "Make haste. The portal will not last."
Yeehaw! Let's go.
All right, brethren, let's hop through.
Okay. All right. You go stepping through the portal and you stand on the edge of the enormous sinkhole that is the entrance to the old Adari Republic underground. And that, given that we are at 10:24, is where we will conclude the episode.
Oh my gosh, guys!
Cliffhanger.
Oh.
So our vampire is a warlock now.
Apparently.
And not a vampire anymore.
For now.
Moroccon's very happy about that.
This is Dungeons and Dragons. Anything is possible. I mean,
This is
He'll
true.
be turned into a Jello monster soon. Who knows?
Yes.
Well, if it's going to happen anywhere, it would be in the Feywild.
good point. Okay. The rest of you, I will say, you notice as you take a look at Lachlan that his wart seems to have shrunk. It's still butt ugly, okay? I'm not saying it's like, it's noticeable. There's still hair sticking out of it, but it is also noticeably smaller. And that's the last thing you notice. Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
There we go. Well, that was quite the episode. You guys made a lot of decisions that are certainly going to impact things down the road.
Oh boy.
Okay. You're marrying one of the Piper's daughters, and you just became as where y'all just got in bed with the Piper. I hopefully you won't come to regret it. Although
I'm sure we will in some form.
if I'm a dungeon master, I almost feel the obligation to make sure you do at least a little bit. But anyway,
we will. Yeah.
It's got to be better than becoming a red cap.
Well, yeah. If you don't envision your character as a steel-booted, grouchy, blood-covered stubby, then it's probably a win. A net win.
Yeah.
Well. All right. Our Consider This Tonight, our moment with Christ, is offered to us by Jeffrey. Jeffrey, take it away, bud.
All right. So when I read through the New Testament, one thing that I often really stands out to me is how Jesus is really fearless in sifting out the difference between things that matter and things that are tradition, but perhaps not for the best. And even though he really made everybody really upset with him, I think that that's an example that we could all use in our lives, being able to sift out what matters from what, may not matter, but what people expect sometimes. So that's my thought for tonight.
The fact that he would eat with and with sinners, and that was against the custom of the day.
Or pluck corn on the Sabbath when he's walking by and hungry.
Yeah.
Or
very good point.
Lots of different things.
I love to think of Jesus as the guy who understands at every moment what really matters and everything else that doesn't, and doesn't hold on to what doesn't. So I love that idea. I think that's a great thought for the evening. Don't sweat the small stuff. Jesus doesn't. So unless the small stuff leads to the big stuff, which is a whole nother thought, and we'll get into that next week, maybe with Ben. Okay. Or I don't know. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for watching. Those of you who will watch this later, peace out. Have a good night.
See you guys.
Good night.